Lincoln Sunshine Special. This is the car that started everything. The Sunshine Special was the first presidential limousine built from the ground up to meet Secret Service requirements. Franklin D. Roosevelt used it throughout the late 1930s and into the war years. It began as a long, elegant Lincoln convertible so the public could easily see the president. The car had a powerful V12 engine and was specially stretched to give more room inside. It featured wide running boards and special grab handles so Secret Service agents could ride on the outside while the car was moving. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Secret Service added armor plating to the doors and body, thicker bullet-resistant glass, and run-flat tires. Even with these upgrades, they kept the open-top design because Roosevelt preferred to be visible to the people. The car carried him to important wartime meetings and public appearances. It became the first state car that truly belonged to the office of the president rather than just being a regular luxury automobile. This vehicle marked the moment when presidential transportation stopped being ordinary and started becoming a specialized tool of both protection and public presence. Even after Roosevelt's death, the Sunshine Special continued to serve for a short time under President Truman before it was finally retired and later preserved in a museum. Lincoln Cosmopolitan Bubble Top Next is the car known as the Bubble Top. Harry Truman ordered a fleet of these specially lengthened Lincoln Cosmopolitans in 1950 after he became president. One of them received a clear plexiglass roof so the president could still wave to crowds even when it was raining. That transparent top is what gave the car its famous nickname. The designers also gave the car extra headroom because formal silk hats were still common at official events in those days. The cars were painted black and modified with stronger frames and early security upgrades for the time. Truman used it regularly, and later Eisenhower and even Kennedy rode in versions of this car. It sat right in the middle of the transition period, still somewhat open and stylish on the outside, but already starting to take security more seriously on the inside. The bubble top remained in service for more than a decade and became one of the most recognizable presidential cars of the 1950s. People still remember the sight of that clear roof glinting in the sun during parades and official motorcades. It was one of the last presidential cars that tried to balance visibility with growing security needs. Lincoln Continental SS 100X. This is the most famous and the most painful car in presidential history. The 1961 Lincoln Continental, codenamed SS 100X by the Secret Service, was the car John F. Kennedy was riding in when he was assassinated in Dallas on November 22, 1963. It was originally designed as a stylish open convertible with removable roofs and a rear seat that could be raised higher so the president would be more visible to the public. The car was stretched longer than a normal Continental and painted a deep presidential blue. It had jump seats, special communications equipment, and platforms for agents. After the assassination, the Secret Service completely rebuilt the vehicle in a project that took months. They added heavy titanium armor plating, a fixed bulletproof roof made of thick multi-layer glass, stronger side glass, and a more powerful engine to handle the extra weight. Even after the tragedy, the rebuilt car continued to serve later presidents for several more years. This single vehicle forced a permanent and dramatic change in how every future presidential limousine would be designed. From that day forward, open cars for the President of the United States were finished. The SS 100X became both a symbol of a national tragedy and the turning point that created the modern armored state car. Lincoln Continental. After the Kennedy car came a much heavier and more serious Lincoln Continental. This version was fully closed and built from the start for pure protection. It carried thick armor plating throughout the body and multi-layered bulletproof glass on every window. The car was used by Presidents Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter. It was long, dark, and deliberately imposing so that it looked official and serious. There were no more open tops and no more clear roofs of any kind. It could still move at highway speeds even with its massive added weight, and it became the standard for presidential travel throughout the late 1960s and 1970s. Cadillac Fleetwood. In the early 1980s, the Secret Service made a major change and switched from Lincoln to Cadillac. Ronald Reagan received the first of the modern Cadillac Fleetwood presidential limousines. The car was stretched significantly longer and raised higher than a normal production Fleetwood so the president could still be seen by the public during motorcades. This vehicle marked the beginning of Cadillac's long dominance as the official maker of the presidential state car. It looked more formal, solid, and modern than the older Lincolns and set the visual style that would continue for decades afterward. Cadillac the Beast. Finally, we reach the current presidential state car, the one everyone calls the Beast. This is not a normal Cadillac in any way. The doors are several inches thick and extremely heavy. The windows are made of multiple layers of specialized ballistic glass. Inside, it has its own independent air filtration and oxygen system, so the president is protected from chemical or biological threats. It carries night vision equipment, run-flat tires that can keep going even after being shot, and emergency medical supplies that include units of the president's blood type. Everything about this vehicle is designed for one purpose only: keep the president alive under any circumstances. It is the most heavily protected ground vehicle the United States Secret Service has ever put on the road.